Gentlemen, welcome to the Salty Fitness approach to reclaiming masculinity. Let's learn how to take dominion of our health. Today, we are going to talk about testosterone and light and how they are related. So let's begin with talking about light a little bit. First thing we want to look at is the spectrum of light. We're looking at blue light versus red light. I'm sure you've heard of these things. So when we think about blue light, we're thinking stimulation, alertness. That's your computer, phone screens. That's going to be any artificial lighting, especially LED lighting and all the rest. When we think about red light, we're thinking about calming light. We're talking spectrum of the light. We're talking about the type of wavelengths. And you can see the difference in the wavelength of blue light versus red light, being more wider or spread out, and how that kind of wavelength acts on the mitochondria. That's MTC, mitochondria. And remember, mitochondria are at the center of what we're aiming at for raising testosterone. So when we think about red light, you should think about especially the sunlight, even more so the sunset, and think about fire, light from fire. So those longer wavelengths are also going to be things that penetrate into body tissues. And we'll talk about that at the end when you hear about red light therapy and the like. I want to show you some differences here in light, spectrums of light. And now we're looking at the sun. This is pretty wild. I love talking about this, but I'm going to try to stay brief. The sun light hits the back of our eye. We have special receptors in the back of our eye that take that as a signal, and then it communicates to the rest of our body. We're talking about hormones, to the brain, to everything. That starts to set our clock and helps orient our brain to where we are in time. So the morning sunlight looks like this. You can see, obviously, on all of these, there's a lot of red light, quite a bit of red light in all of them. But one thing you're going to notice is a difference in blue light across these different times of the day, and even some of those green lights, but those aren't as important because they don't signal to our brain as much. It's mainly the blue and the red that provides the strongest signals to our brain and thus our body. Check out the daylight blue light, fairly high. When you compare that to the sunset light, you're going to see a big drop in the amount of blue light when our eyes see the sun set. It's different, which is pretty wild, right? It's the same sun, but it's giving off a different spectrum. And this kind of spectrum in this lower blue light and a nice chunk of high levels of red light is going to stimulate things like melatonin, sleep hormone, to be released and produced in the evening to help you fall asleep and get to sleep and sleep well. And that's super important because testosterone is made primarily when we sleep. If your sleep is bad, your testosterone production will be bad, period, full stop. Okay, now let's look at the spectrum of campfire. You can see that blue light has really all but disappeared. There's almost no blue light in firelight. So all of these I've taken from this source, Healthy Home. I would highly recommend checking out what they have. I've never seen anything like the circadian bulbs that they have. We have them in our house, throughout our house. Absolutely love them. I have no affiliation, but they're not cheap, but they are amazing products. So that's your background. We've got red light, blue light. What about a couple of studies? Let's look at a couple of studies looking at red light versus blue light. Here we go. Let's look at this one first. Red light affects blood sugar. So that might be a little surprising, but it is absolutely true. And we'll check out this study here called Light Stimulation of Mitochondria Reduces Blood Glucose Levels. So what they did in this study, human study, they did 15 minutes of red light therapy on to the physical back of a person. And they did this following a meal and found a nearly 30% reduction in blood glucose or blood sugar levels. So how in the world does red light affect your blood sugar? Well, this is something that most doctors aren't going to make a connection with, whether they know it or not sure, but most of them wouldn't make this connection at all. But your mitochondria health are going to affect your ability to process the sugars or carbohydrates in your body. So much to the point where you could even say having a high blood sugar or high blood glucose levels when you take in carbohydrates is actually a good biomarker to show that you have poor mitochondrial health. And we know this because the red light stimulates the mitochondria. It stimulates their efficiency in producing energy. And so if they're more efficient, they're going to pull more carbohydrates through the system easier. And this is really at the root of the problem of insulin resistance. It's not a problem of the body doesn't like or ignores insulin. There's been too much insulin. It's a problem of a traffic backup because the mitochondria are not very efficient. Okay, so if you want to use this as a tool, if you have, for example, pretty high blood glucose levels after meals, there's a couple things you could do. One of the easiest things is just take a walk, and that can reduce your post-meal spike by up to 50%, doing like a 30-minute walk, but any kind of activity or walk afterwards is helpful. Or you can try doing this. Again, following a meal, especially you want to have carbohydrates at every meal, but that's a good way to do it. So big picture though, I want to show you red light affects mitochondrial health. Mitochondria are at the center of overall good health, which is at the center of producing testosterone. All right, study number 2 on red light. So this one relates to cognition in both healthy and people with Alzheimer's. And what they did with this one is they took, this is another human study, and they had a helmet of some sorts of red light therapy going on them. They just did 6 minutes 2 times a day at this wavelength. And what they found were some significant improvements in their cognitive performance, which is pretty wild. So they found even improvements in motor function, in working memory, and in delayed or longer term memory, brain processing speeds. And their proposed mechanism was, here it is again, mitochondrial stimulation, as well as decreased inflammation. So you've got red light therapy improving the mitochondria in the brain, and then you've got brain outcomes improving. Okay, let's take a trip on to the flip side. Let's look at blue light. Now this study here, take a moment to check out this title, blue light and excessive blue light, I should say, because blue light by itself is not bad. Again, it's stimulating. Remember that? It's higher in the morning, although it's relatively small compared to red light. Blue light stimulating, you do want that in the morning. However, excess, I really should say excess blue light accelerates aging and reduced lifespan by more than 50% in fruit flies. So they did this study in fruit flies because if you do a lifetime study on humans, it's going to take a lifetime. When you look at fruit flies, their lifespans are much shorter, so you can project that out to humans. That's why they do these kind of studies on fruit flies and rats. So what they did was they exposed fruit flies. They had a control group, and then they gave some 10 to 12 hours daily of blue light. So I want you to remember that number, 10 to 12 hours per day. What it resulted in is that more than 50% reduction in lifespan. It also included neurodegenerative changes. What is that? Neuro, referring to nerves, degeneration, breakdown. So there was nerve breakdown changes that they found, even damage to the retina of the eyes, reduced, there's that physical part, even their ability to move around. So again, why would excess blue light, high levels, remember, 10 to 12 hours a day, why would that cause all of these changes? And for a mechanism, we can look at this study here where they actually use fluorescent lights. And what they found and concluded in this study was that there was a immune system overresponse, or we would call this chronic inflammation. Where is this coming from? It's coming from decreased mitochondrial health. Okay, so hopefully that's making sense here. Excess blue light, not good. Red light is helpful. You can overdo red light, especially like red light therapy, so just know that, and it turns into a stress. But overall, we need to consider the context of modern humans today. And that's why I wanted you to remember that 10 to 12 hours, because this is where we are today. So this is just average daily screen time for adults. It's much higher for children these days, but it's about 7 hours a day in front of a computer like this one. The average office worker is indoors 21 to 23, some would even say more, hours a day. That means you're usually under fluorescent lights, LED lights, which are high in blue spectrum, very high in blue, very low in red. You're under that artificial lighting almost all day, and you're not in the sunlight very much, which is where you're going to get your red light. So I have one more study to look at with blue light, and I just noticed I didn't change the title. This is the title of the previous one, but this is a study on prepubescent rats, and it checked, I wanted to see if blue light would affect their development of puberty, especially of their testes, and what would happen with that. So they had 3 groups. They had a control group. They had a group that was under blue light for 6 hours a day, and another one that was under blue light for 12 hours a day. Remember, we are under blue light probably somewhere double that, okay? So with these rats in this study, all of them stayed at a 12-hour light-dark cycles. So they all had the same amount of darkness. They all had the same hour of total light, but one group had high, 6 hours. One had very high amount of blue light, 12 hours. What did they find? Both blue light groups had smaller testes in size and weight. Then they found on a spectrum here, the higher the blue light, the lower the sperm count. Sperm production was hindered by how much blue light, relative to how much blue light the rat had. And then same thing with the higher the blue light, the greater the edema or swelling in the testes. So not a good sign for our testicular health and our sperm creation and testosterone health with lots of blue light. Okay, so we've got, the red, the blue light studies. What can we do about it? I'll have a couple action steps here. I won't go into detail too much, but you can take screenshots of this, check it out that way if you want. I'm going to run through this. There are lots of action steps, and some of them are pretty easy. I would say the very first thing you should aim for is getting that morning sunlight, that first round of outdoor light in the morning within an hour of waking up, and ideally when it's low angle sun, meaning it's just rising. That's ideal. I realize that can't happen for everyone, but this is a huge benefit, and it'll affect you through the whole day because it's such a circadian rhythm. It'll affect how well you sleep. Remember, sleep, absolutely crucial for testosterone production. So, if you can get outside though, any time of the day, you're eating lunch outside, it's fantastic. Do a post-dinner walk, especially when you get low angle sunset light, that's going to stimulate melatonin. If it's wintertime and you can't get outside, you can search for a 10,000 lux light, set it next to like your computer screen. Don't stare directly at it. Have it off to the side, but close enough, about 30 minutes a day. Realize that windows today are blocking most of the wavelengths that are going to signal to the eyes. So even if you're by the window, it's not really going to get into there unless you're actually outside. Computer and phone screens, the blue light filters, blue blocking glasses are questionably helpful. Some would say it's because they're cheap Amazon products. So this company here, they seem to have produced pretty good products. I use them, no affiliation, but I definitely notice some less eye strain when I use those. They have kind of daylight ones and evening ones. So you can check that out. Evening routines, again, blue light is going to kill melatonin. So I've got something on that next point here with household lighting. These are the circadian lights that I was mentioning from healthyhome.shop. And again, no affiliation, but amazing product. I think that could be a big number 2. If we said, number 1 priority would be here, biggest mover. Number 2 would probably be that one. And also they do have some evening lights or night lights or motion lights. So make sure to get those. And then just quickly here with red light, this is going to show how deep that red light penetrates. If you want to take a screenshot of this, take a screenshot, and then that'll help you decide, with what outcomes you want, what red light to get, and happy shopping on that. I could do probably maybe another video just on red light alone. So hopefully that's helpful. Take a look at that. Consider light. Light is a huge piece of taking dominion over your body, including raising your testosterone. God gave us an amazing light that does so much more than just remove the shadows. So know the light, learn to love it the right way, and we'll see you on the next one.